So let me tell you a story of something that happened to us yesterday in one of our branches. We met these lovely couple that came in and they had an issue like many of you. And I hope that with this story, I can give you a bit more clarity and I can help some of you who are struggling with the same thing. So anyway, these two lovely people walk into one of our branches and they have an itchy dog. The dog has been itching for quite some time, for a few months, and the dog always scratches ears and doesn't really have comfortable ears. You know, whenever dogs just scratch the ears all the time and they're just not comfortable, and for some reason you don't really know what's going on, and then you get frustrated. Anyway, these two people have been frustrated for quite some time. So we are going to go down the advice or the recommendations we tend to give people all the time so that we can hopefully help you too. They had been talking to their vet and the vet had spotted some sort of allergy. And I said, well, which one? Which sort of allergy is it? There's three sorts of allergies. There's nutrition, there's environmental, and there's breed specific. I mean, there can be more, but they mainly fall into one of those three. Nutrition, there's something in the dog's diet that's causing an issue, a problem. It's a common allergen. There's an allergen. It could be beef, it could be chicken, it could be rice, it could be oats, it could be barley. We don't know what it is. We don't know what's triggering the dog's allergy. The second one is environmental. Sometimes some breeds, like some humans, are prone to, in certain parts of the year, certain seasons, develop allergies. So you have to be mindful and you have to maybe avoid certain things like grass, things like sand, things like dust mites, for example. But at least you're aware, at least you know what's triggering it, at least you can plan and prepare so that you can help your dog. And the third one is breed specific. So if you have a blue Frenchie, for example, or if you have a poorly bred dog, sometimes those dogs tend to be more allergy prone. And you can only mitigate those symptoms because the problem is within. But anyway, so we ran through everything the dog eats. So what does the dog eat? The dry biscuit the dog is having is Wainwright's. Now, I've looked at a few recipes and the carbohydrate sources tend to be quite high. So the recipes with rice, for example, they will put 25-26% rice or brown rice, which isn't ideal for a dog. Remember that dogs can't really chew, so feeding the dog rice could be a common problem. The second one would be barley. They do put barley as well in the food and it's a cheap filler. It's a refined sugar, it's a refined carbohydrate, and we don't really need it in our pet's food. But anyway, the grain-free options has a lot of sweet potato. A bit of sweet potato is okay because a low glycemic carbohydrate, and we can argue and debate whether that's good or bad, but at least it's a low glycemic carbohydrate. But still, Wainwright's grain-free has a lot of sweet potato. You are paying for a lot there. Anyway, that's Wainwright. So the food is not the best. Now let's look at wet food. What wet food is the dog having? Well, the dog was having pedigree. He's having a pouch of pedigree every day. And I spotted the first problem straight away. So when we look at the ingredients, and you can check these for yourself, I have the variety here in jelly. We have beef and liver mix, meat and animal derivatives 40%. So we have beef 6%, pork liver 9% in the chunk, whatever that is. But animal derivatives, so they put different animals in the food. We don't really know. We can only spot the 6% and the 9%. Then we have poultry 14% in another pouch. Again, it's not duck, it's not chicken, it's not specific. If you have a dog with an allergy, you have to be specific about what you feed your dog. Otherwise, you won't know what's triggering the allergy if the dog is allergic to some. So anyway, you are feeding the dog a lot of cereals and meat and animal derivatives that aren't specific. So if it's not specific, we don't know what we are feeding the dog. And then they were feeding the dog all the treats. So what do we do when we don't know whether the allergy is food, it's environmental, or it's breed specific? There's a couple options. You can get an allergy test, like a blood allergy test from your vet, and it costs about £800 to £1,000, and then we know what the dog is allergic to 100%. Or if we don't have that kind of dollar, which obviously is a bit pricey for some people, including me, we can take the smart route initially and say, well, we are going to put the dog on a single protein food. So what's a single protein food? Single protein food is a kibble or a raw variety or a wet food variety. That's one single protein. Just chicken or just lamb or just salmon, for example, or just venison. By just feeding the dog one single protein and keeping the carbohydrates low, I can't emphasize this enough. Too many carbohydrates, excess glycolysis, carbohydrates convert into sugar, sugar overloads the glycolytic system of the dog. One of the symptoms can be pruritus, dermatitis. I can't emphasize this enough. Be very mindful of feeding your dog too many carbohydrates. Just in simple terms, carbohydrates convert into sugar. Sugar is what causes problems in dogs because they're not prepared like us to use the excess sugar. So we've identified one single protein food, high meat content, low glycemic carbohydrates, as few carbohydrates as you can afford. And then we monitor the dog's progress. What does the dog look like in 5 weeks? What does the dog look like in 8 weeks? The one thing I want to say is that this particular vet had recommended to keep upping the steroid dose just until the dog got better, or just to mask the symptoms. And it struck me quite hard that after months and months and after so many visits, these couple, who were absolutely gorgeous people, the vet hadn't spoken about nutrition, the role of nutrition, what the dog could potentially be allergic to, how to mitigate those allergies. It's a bit like seeing a house on fire and just treating the smoke coming from the chimney instead of looking at the fire and trying to solve the problem first. So what did this couple do? They took a bag of a single protein food and they asked, how about treats? And I said, well, if you give the dog anything else, you are not going to know whether that food is working or not working. I could sell you more things and I could potentially make more money, but I'm not going to, because that's not the right thing for the dog. So what we are going to do is we are going to barter with the dog's daily allowance of kibble, and we are going to use that kibble, that wonderful single protein food you now have, as treats, and we are going to monitor the dog's progress for the next few weeks. And if the dog gets better, guess what? That the allergy was nutrition related, we can actually get the dog off of the steroids forever and just keep the dog on a really good diet. So if this has helped, please get in touch. If you are having the same problem, you can visit our website. We only sell good foods at Principle. But if you have any questions regarding this, please get in touch, please comment, and if you found value, please like.